I think I'm all messed up because, and that's why I keep telling y'all every day, I'm like, the older I get, the more confused I am because one, my husband, I think he's kind of where I am too because he's an activist. So he's learning a lot more about, our culture and like just the different things. Like you said, growing up, we believed in Christmas. We believed in Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, this, you believe in that. So I think the first time I questioned God being real, I think I was in middle school. Because I was like, if all of this stuff is just stuff they say that we're supposed to believe in that we don't see, then how do we know this is real? So then I was like, ooh, let me hush my mouth because it was like a blasphemy if you say that out loud, especially as a kid. Well, so growing up, I started out I started out like in a Baptist church because that was a church that was right up the street from us.
That's how it was for a lot of us.
Yeah, like whatever church, I just feel like whatever church was closest to you, that's where you went, and that's the practices that you did. When I got older, make a long story short on that, I ended up working at a church. I put in an application for just on AJC Jobs back in the day to tell you how long ago that was. AJC Jobs. You know how you lie on your resume and this, that, and the third. So when they called back and they said they was a church, I almost didn't go because I was like, oh gosh, like I know I didn't work some of them jobs I said I did. And they asked me about that. I can't lie in the house of the Lord. So everybody was like, God gave you this opportunity for this job. You better go to that interview. I went to the interview and I was sitting there like, you could feel like the sweat on the inside of my body, not on the outside, the inside. I was sweating. And so I was like, they're going to ask me about these jobs and how long I worked there and what college I went to. No, I ain't go to no damn college. And so when we was doing the interview, I had to come back and then I interviewed with the pastor. And his ringtone was Fat Joe's Lean Back. Once I heard, and he turned it off real quick, like, oh, I'm sorry. He wasn't like shocked that, I'm like, oh my gosh, she heard that. He was like, oh, I'm sorry, like my ringer was on. Once I was like, in my mind, like, oh, let me lay back. This is going to be cool. Because you ain't even listening to gospel music. So I think we put too much pressure on church. But at the same time, the church puts pressure on us. So still to this day, I'm 38 years old, and I am terrified to get baptized because I don't feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be. And it's certain things that I'm like that bad child. I feel like it's certain stuff that I'm supposed to do. And I'm telling God already, I ain't doing that. So I don't want to get baptized. What the church be saying? Like, you got to live a certain way. You got to walk a certain way. You got to talk a certain way. You're supposed to just do certain stuff church-wise. And I ain't ready to do all of that.
But some of that stuff might not even biblical to begin with.
And that's what I personally don't know that. So, like, we were speaking yesterday on God isn't in the church house. God should be within you. I don't feel like I'm knowledgeable at it, which I could get that way. But I just feel like if you're going to school, you can sit there and go through the book by yourself. But you still, like, if it's something you don't understand, somebody's supposed to teach it to you. But then I hear different things that, because I don't know the Bible back and forth, when somebody says something that, a woke person says something that makes sense, I'm like, I can't even challenge it because I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah, because if you knew it, then I get that.
Yeah.
Because, like, it may not even be true, but because it sounds good and you can see the logic behind it,
yes.
And you don't have like a firm foundation, you can't really I get that.
Like, I can't think of the movie Harriet. Have y'all seen the Harriet Tubman movie?
No,
so there's one part in the Harriet Tubman movie where they were doing their Bible studies or whatever, and They I don't know if they did it in the movie to not be funny, but just to have something like bling, like a light go off. But they said something about it. They just kept reciting a scripture that said, "Obey your master." And in my mind, I'm like, the movie is like it's a slavery movie. I don't know if the Bible meant master and something else, but you don't have me watching a Harriet movie and they talking about obey your master, and all I see is these white people walking around them.
Well, it is biblical. We can always find some kind of reason to make what we do viable. And that is what people do in the church. When there is something that they want to do, it don't matter what it is, they're going to find something that's going to make it okay for them to do it. And what we have now is something you said, well, you said the word grace. Eventually it runs out. Well, look at it this way. When you're born, you come home as a baby. If your parents don't grow with you, they treat you like a baby the rest of your life. Well, here's a fact. You're a baby for 6 months. You're an infant for 6 months. You're a toddler for 5 years. You're an adolescent for 2 years. You're a teenager for 5. And the rest of your life, you're an adult. If you're not growing with the with the change of life as a parent with your children, they would never understand what it's like when they become adults, because they have to battle those things through those stages. If you are, you say, a Christian, there comes a time, yes, you get to know the basics. In the beginning, God created heaven and earth, and the 10 commandments, even though there's 680 something of them. You learn the commandments. You learn these things as you go, the basic things. But then you start getting into the deep things of God. There has to come a time when you have to mature in this thing. Period. You can't spend your whole life talking about, well, he's still working on me. No, he ain't. He stopped working on you a long time ago. And at some point, it becomes an excuse. At some point, it becomes an excuse. And that is the situation that we have with so many people. With the church of today, everything is okay in the church. Everything. You name it, people are doing it. And if they're not doing it, they're going to find a church where it's okay for them to do it.
My take on that, I know that there's a scripture in the Bible somewhere, I think like Jeremiah, I don't know, but it says, I love you with an everlasting love, by loving kindness have I drawn thee. He's drawn us by loving kindness, but we're not showing that same loving kindness to everybody else. We're judgmental. We if they don't look like we do, even though they could have the same struggle that we have. But if ours is not as a parent, then we don't want to we don't want to sit by them, because then we think somebody gonna see what we really dealing with, and that's the thing that I have a problem with. I was a part of an assembly back years ago. They had the sit down method, and if y'all don't know what the sit down method is, it's basically if you do something that's considered a sin or whatever, they sit you down. Most of the times it was when they got pregnant. It was a young lady, not for real, it was a young lady who got pregnant, and she honestly was pregnant by somebody within the church. She got sat down, but he was still being paid to play, and I didn't like that. I didn't agree with that. I guess she and the daddy had a talk. They decided not to have the baby. She terminated the pregnancy. She had an abortion.
Gosh.
They still allow her to sing. So at that moment, it really turned me off, because at this moment, it's like, oh, do what you do, but just don't let nobody.
Don't get caught.
It was like an image thing, and from then on, like, I wasn't there too much longer after that.
Think about that situation, and go into a church today, and you see a whole lot of unmarried, pregnant women, and ain't nobody being sat down. That is the thing that I'm talking about. These are the reasons, some of the reasons why I had to walk away, because there is no accountability. And when it doesn't affect the church and the things that make it popular, choirs, then there's no change. I want you to think about that.
I honestly don't believe in the sit-down method. And the reason why I say that, because everybody has done something that will deem them in the eyes of man as unworthy. I just don't believe in me being the ultimate ruler or something to tell you, oh, since you've done this, then you can't serve in this capacity until you are in right standing with God. Because I will never know if you're in right standing with God. That's something I think that's personal.
It's certain things in the Bible I don't personally agree with. So I feel like I don't want to play with it. That's me.
There are rules, and we want to break them. That is just the bottom line. Look, you take on a job. Let's get away from religion. You take a job. They give you the rules and the regulations of that job. You don't go in that job at any time and say, well, I don't feel like doing this today because it don't fit my personality. I don't do this today because that's not the kind of clothes I want to wear. You don't go into that job and make rules that change rules that are already written. You follow those.
Right.
The Bible is the same way. There are rules, and how you dress, how you are to act, they're strict. The thing is people don't know what they are. And when they do know, they don't want to follow them, because it's going to make them accountable for themselves. People don't want to change. They want to live their lives the way they live it and still say, I'm on my way to heaven.